Hello everyone, and welcome to the 2018 Illinois Farmers Market Association Fall-Winter Webinar Series, hosted by the Illinois Farmers Market Association, New Leaf Consulting, and University of Illinois Extension. My name is Laurie George, and I'm a local foods and small farms educator with University of Illinois Extension based in Mount Vernon, Illinois. We appreciate you joining us for the webinar, and we will do our best to begin and end within the space of your lunch hour. Feel free to ask questions to the presenters as we go along. If you do not have a mic or a way to communicate with them, then enter your questions into the chat box. This presentation will be recorded and a link will be sent to you via email. We will also post the video onto the Illinois Farmers Market Association website, as well as the Illinois Local Foods YouTube site. I would now like to introduce Jane Maxwell, Executive Director for the Illinois Farmers Market Association. Hello, Jane.
Thank you, Laurie, and thank you all for joining us today for this webinar. We hope that at the end of today that you will have found that the perspectives of the first-year farmers market managers that we are going to be talking with today will be of great value to you. Again, thank you to University of Illinois Extension for hosting us today. We truly appreciate their partnership and appreciate Laurie George providing all the technical support that we need for this webinar. Today, we are really pleased to have some great speakers that we're going to be talking about managing farmers markets. But first, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Illinois Farmers Market Association and what it is that we do. As you can see, this is our mission. The Illinois Farmers Market Association supports local food and food systems by giving Illinois farmers markets and producers access to resources, education, and connections in order to grow healthier and economically vibrant communities. We work as a team. I am the executive director and I am on staff with ILFMA, but I am joined by a very active board who basically does most of the work of the organization. We are statewide and we are a membership organization. So today, if you are taking advantage of this webinar and you are not a member of the Illinois Farmers Market Association, we would really appreciate your partnership so that we can continue the work that we are doing at this level. We work to support farmers markets, producers, 3631. And we do that providing professional development opportunities, training. We work closely with like-minded organizations to provide advocacy that is focused on farmers markets and legislation in particular that may affect how farmers markets are run. And then every chance we get, we take the opportunity to promote farmers markets and the benefits of buying local food and supporting our local farmers. So we ask as an organization that you would go to our website, ilfma.org, and look into joining ILFMA if you are not already a member. We have been involved in some pretty exciting initiatives over the last couple of years. We've been the recipients of a couple grants that have really helped us take our work to the next level. We received a 2015 Farmers Market Promotion Grant, and in partnership with Market Maker, we were able to create an online shareable database system called Connect Fresh. If you go to our website, you will find links to Connect Fresh Illinois. And what makes this exciting is it is a database of farmers markets, but it's far more than just like your name and your address and where you're located and your hours. As much as a farmers market manager or a food producer wants to enter into the system, will then describe all the activities and the things that you offer at your market. What kind of currency do you take? Do you take SNAP, Link? Do you accept WIC coupons? Or do you have a double value program? Do you have handicap accessible parking? Do you have even free parking versus paid parking? All of those things are fields within the profile that a farmers market manager or a producer could help fill out so that you get the most robust information available about your particular market. Because it's not just for farmers market managers finding potential vendors or producers looking for a farmers market to sell their product, but it's also for consumers. We're trying to get consumers more interested in visiting your local farmers market. So in addition to that, the same information that is in the Market Maker database is then in an app called the What's in Season app. You can download that on our website as well. And all the information basically that is in Connect Fresh, Illinois, is in an app. And we think this is, of course, the next generation of how people are going to use, look for information. And in addition to potentially finding where producers are and where farmers markets are and all the details about those markets, you can then also find what's in season. We think an educated consumer about what's in season may actually be beneficial to all of us in trying to support the local food system and locally produced products. So I encourage you to go to our website and look for that particular information. Today we are talking about perspectives of first-year farmers market managers, and we are really excited with the people that we have joining us today. I am going to let them introduce themselves to you. They have a wide range of backgrounds, but we have Nicole Moore, who is with the Illinois Department of Ag, and she works at the Illinois Products Farmers Market in Springfield. We have Amanda Pankau from the Monticello Farmers Market, and we have Deborah Cavanaugh-Grant, who works at the Springfield Old Capitol Market. So I'm going to let them each tell the audience a little bit about themselves, just a brief background. Go ahead, Nicole. Maybe having some technical issues. So Amanda, are you available?
I'm here, sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, great, Nicole. Go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. I muted myself because there was like some construction, so I forgot to unmute myself. Anyway, my name is Nicole Moore, and I'm fairly new to this position. I started in July. Previous to them hiring a full-time position to take care of the farmers market, we had a lady in here on contract, but they really wanted to get somebody in here to take it on full-time. I also manage our specialty crop block grant program, as well as some other things throughout the year. But previous to this, I was a marketing manager, as well as lived in Bloomington for 10 years and worked for the Illinois Farm Bureau. So I have a lot of experience in that, but the farmers market area is fairly new to me, so I'm going to be learning kind of as I go and through some other great people that I've met in the industry.
Great. Thanks, Nicole. Amanda?
Hi, my name is Amanda Pankau. I'm actually an ecologist by training. I work for Prairie Rivers Network, which is based out of Champaign, but is a statewide environmental nonprofit. So that's kind of my day job. And so my interest in local food stems from my understanding of ecology and how large-scale industrial agriculture impacts our land and our water. And our communities. So I have had an interest in local food for a long time. I served on the board of a group called FoodWorks in Southern Illinois, which is similar to the Land Connection. And then upon moving back to Monticello, Illinois, which is my hometown, the farmers market position came open. So with my desire to help the land and also the community that I grew up in, I filled that role at the beginning of our season this year. And similarly, I look forward to hearing from other folks today and learning more about how we can make our small market better.
Great. And Deborah?
Hi, my name is Deborah Cavanaugh-Grant, and as Janie said, I'm the manager for the Old Capitol Farmers Market in downtown Springfield. I started the position in February. I'm also a certified farm market manager, and prior to working in this position, I was an extension specialist educator for 28 years with the University of Illinois Extension and the Natural Resources Environmental Sciences Department. I spent my career working with local food systems, organic farmers, beginning farmer training, and farmers markets. And I also serve on the board for the Illinois Farmers Market Association.
Great. Thank you, Deborah. The way that we're going to do this today is I have a series of questions, and I'm going to ask our presenters to respond to them. And then as we are aware of questions that come in, we will try to address those as we go, or we'll just answer those at the end if that is logistically a little bit easier. So what we do want to know is a little bit about each of these farmers markets that you serve. Where are they located? What's the format, including things like your administrative structure and what kinds of programs and activities do you offer? In particular, things like the Link program, Double Value, other kinds of programs and promotions at your market. And might just be easy so that the audience knows who's speaking. Maybe we'll just go in that. I don't know. Do you want to go in an order or should we jump around a little bit? If we jump around, just say your name so we know who's speaking. Do you want to go first, Nicole?
Oh, sure, I can go first.
Okay.
Okay. Again, my name is Nicole Moore, and I am the manager for the Illinois Products Farmers Market there at the State Fairgrounds. This farmers market is ran by the Department of Agriculture, and we run from May through October. We have many different varieties of produce and locally grown products there. We really try to focus on people that are, or products that are being grown locally at the seller's farm. Sometimes that's hard to combat, but we're hopefully going to get better at that. We do have the Link program set up, and we do a match up to $20. I think next year we're going to increase it to $25. But that has really seemed to work out very well this year. We seem to be attracting some more of that market, and really look forward to gaining some traction on that. We are out at the barn here at the fairgrounds. It's from 4 to 7 every Thursday night. And trying to think. Since I'm fairly new, I'm gonna stop there and let some other people jump in.
Okay, this is Amanda Pankau. So I am the market manager for the Monticello Farmers Market, which is located in Monticello, Illinois. That's just about a half hour west of Champaign-Urbana. We're a town of about 5,500 people, so not a real big community. The Farmers Market is a program of a local nonprofit known as Monticello Main Street, and that nonprofit has a mission for historic preservation and downtown business development. They have a part-time executive director, and then I'm hired on just a small stipend to run the farmers market. The market is actually in its 19th year. We just had our 19th year, so that's a long time for a town our size. Prior to me, the woman who started the market 19 years ago had ran it every year since then, and she was ready to move on. We are on Thursdays from 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. and we run from mid-June to the first week of November or first week of October. So we're actually kind of have a short season as well. We have anywhere from 10 to 25 vendors depending on the time of year. We're just along a short stretch of street, which is shaded, which is nice. So the vendors set up on both sides. They're not allowed to have trucks or vehicles with them because we don't have a lot of space. And as far as programming goes, we offer space for community groups like Master Gardeners, a local art group, the Farm Bureau, and we also added some kids activities this year as well. And that's all I've got.
Okay, hi, I'm Deborah with the Old Capitol Farmers Market, and the Old Capitol Farmers Market has an interesting structure. We're also 19 years old. It's managed, governed by the Downtown Springfield Inc., which is also an economic development organization promoting businesses and opportunities in downtown Springfield. The Illinois Stewardship Alliance has a contract with Downtown Springfield to manage the market, and we also have a partnership with the Springfield Area Arts Council, and I'll talk about that later in my comments. So Downtown Springfield Inc. retains the ownership of the market, and they're responsible for marketing and sponsorships. And the Illinois Stewardship Alliance is responsible for all of the details related to market operations. And then the Springfield Area Arts Council hires local performers. They receive a grant, and they also work with me to approve our artisan applications. There's a jury process and things like that. And lastly, we have a great partnership with the City of Springfield Office of Public Works because the streets are all blocked off, there's signage and things like that. So there's a lot of people that are involved in this market. We have an advisory board that was started in 2017, and we are going to meet in a couple weeks just to have a recap of the market and moving forward for 2019. We have a premier sponsor for our market, which is HSHS St. John's Hospital, which provides a very large grant to support our market efforts. This market is unique because it's a twice-a-week market. It's run on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 8 to 12:30. We start middle of May and we go to the last Saturday of October. The market includes a lot of different activities, chef demos. We work with the hospital and other folks to put on family fitness. As I mentioned, working with the Springfield Area Arts Council, we have acoustic musicians every week for 2 hours from 10 to noon. We also have special events, Kids Day at the market, and we just finished our Halloween at the market. And we also offer a really great program for Link and Link Match, and I'm going to talk more about that later. We also offer credit debit tokens. And our market has about, in total of registration, 75 vendors.
Wow, okay. All right, well, thank you. That's good background. I know when I go to a farmer's market, and I guess you could say as the executive director of the Illinois Farmers Market Association, I'm kind of a farmers market junkie. I go to a lot of different farmers market during the season and then during the winter season here in Illinois. And they all seem to run seamlessly. They all seem to just happen. But I think one of the things that we really want to know from this group is not only how does that happen, but from your perspective, what does it mean to be a farmers market manager? What has that job really entailed?
This is Amanda from Monticello. I think for me, what it means to be a farmers market manager is to serve as the liaison or the link between the market vendors and the customers. And I think for me, the reason why I say that is because with the prior management, I feel like that was lacking. There wasn't a lot of communication that went on between the vendors and the customers outside just the day of the market and people showing up. So I think the manager is to line up the offerings and offer a fun experience for the shoppers, but then also to communicate that to them ahead of time so that they know what to expect when they get there that day. And then also helping the customers learn why it's important to shop locally and why that makes their community a better place. And then by doing those things, I can let the vendors do what they do best on growing or making product that they're bringing.
Yeah, this is Nicole. I would agree with that statement. I also feel like I'm there to offer support to our vendors and what they may need, because without them and helping them and keeping not necessarily keeping them happy, but making sure their concerns are addressed and that we're kind of staying authentic to what our values are as being a farmer's market. I feel like then we're providing better service to our customers.
Great.
Yeah, I would concur with that, and I think just might have a similar feeling that just my responsibility is to coordinate and oversee the ongoing functioning of our market to ensure that it's a venue for the sale of farmers and artisan products and that it functions smoothly and effectively, which is a challenge sometimes. I also see for the future that the farm market manager has a role to play for envisioning and planning for the future of the market. So looking at the long-term sustainability and viability of it.
That's a good point. Okay. So in addition to all of that, what skills do you think are needed to guide a market to success for the farmer, the consumer, and then the community partners? So what skill set do you is needed?
Do you want to just meet? I'll go because
sure.
Well, I think there's a lot of them. I think the first thing for me is a passion for farmers markets. And as I mentioned, it's an interesting thing to work as an academic, and I was involved as the first editor for the Farm Market Manual, and now Laurie George, who's on our call, is providing leadership to that through the University of Illinois Extension and other people that are working on this document. So it's an interesting thing to look at something and, from a educational perspective, but I obviously was never a farm market manager. So doing this job and writing about it are two different things, right? So that was a really good life lesson for me. I think some of the skills that I think that you need to have is the ability to analyze situations, obviously decision making, goal setting. I think that's really important to do, and we'll talk about that later probably with things that people want to talk about, some aspects of their market. Organizing and being organized, planning, there's a lot of planning that's involved. Budgeting, I do a lot of work with a budget and getting that figured out. How do you implement the things that you're talking about in your manual and other things? Monitoring, I'm really big on evaluation, and I spend a lot of time every week collecting data and then monitoring it and providing feedback. Problem solving, there's a lot of that goes on, and you guys that are on the call that are doing this job probably see a lot of opportunities for stuff that happens every single market that you have to take care of. And then we've already heard from two of our managers that communicating is really important. Managing conflict, and that's something that I want to share a little bit more about in some of my comments. Working with other people and staff, and then another thing I think is really important is this long-range planning for the future of the market.
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, this is Nicole. I would agree with those statements. I also think it's important to be obviously you want to be a people person, have good customer relations skills, be able to handle different types of situations as they come, and not be afraid to think outside the box, be creative, be able to take risks and know that they're not always going to work out. I know we have good customer population throughout the year, but after the state fair hits, it seems to die off pretty quickly. So my big task right now is I'm just trying to think outside the box and see what I can do to increase numbers next year and to hopefully have a positive influence on our customer base, as well as attracting some new vendors.
This is Amanda. I think they both covered it really well. I would echo Deborah's mention of having a passion. I think enthusiasm is contagious, and so if you have a manager that is excited to be there and believes in what local food systems can do for communities, that enthusiasm will rub off on the vendors, the customers, local leaders that will support you. And also I would echo the people skills. I was amazed at the different conflicts that I had to resolve between vendors, customers. I just wasn't expecting that. So just being able to use my people skills and improve upon them was something I will continue to work on.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Great comment. Thank you.
I think one of the takeaways as I listen to all of these skills is that very often these positions are part-time or less than full-time, but we're talking about quite a sophisticated set of skills that each of you bring. How would you react to that?
I think I would agree, and that's again where that passion comes in. If you weren't passionate about it, you'd probably be using those skills at something else that gave you more bang for your buck, or I guess more money for your time. But when you're passionate about it, you're willing to bring those skills to something that makes your community a better place.
Right.
Well, and I think what was interesting to me, if you think about it, I'm in a part-time position, and the idea of putting on for 6 months, twice a week for 48 weeks. I mean, just if you think about it like that, and as an extension professional, that was my job. I developed programs, I taught, did all the stuff related to it. It's a huge job, and then the bazillion details that occur, and then, as Amanda mentioned, just all the issues dealing with humans. So I think it's a tough job, and especially in a part-time capacity.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's Nicole. A lot of you are part-time or maybe even volunteer, and I'm in a full-time position here, but I wouldn't say the farmers market is my full-time position, because I obviously manage a couple other programs here at IGOA. So I definitely think those skill sets really contribute to the position, as well as just really being able to take things in stride. You're not always going to have the best week, and you're going to have some fallouts with vendors and customers, and just really being able to work through it and know that you're doing the best that you can do, and to provide for the public as well as the vendors.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing, because I do think, I just am always impressed by the incredible passion that I see in the farmers market managers that I deal with on a regular basis. And you're right, you probably could get paid more money by somebody else for using the kind of skill set that is required to run a successful market. But at the same time, we're just incredibly thankful that you've chosen to use your skills toward building the farmers market communities, supporting farmers, and then ultimately providing economic development to the communities where you live. So thank you. But looking back at your first season, what would you say your biggest success is?
I'll share. We had this really cool thing happen. We have a partnership with the Junior League of Springfield. And one of the things that I think is very, very important for the market, and both of our other presenters have alluded to this, is our opportunity to have Link shoppers and the Link Match program, where we receive funds from the experimental station our market does. And so we were awarded a grant, the Illinois Stewardship Alliance, to become the community partner for the Junior League of Springfield. So there, we've had several meetings, and we're working together as our two organizations to develop a plan to increase our opportunity for the money that we have available to disperse to people, and then how do we do a better job of marketing. So I think that's very exciting. And then we also started a really great program with Gen H Kids. It's a community organization in Springfield that works in the intersection of food and health and activity for kids in our community. And they started this gleaning process at our market, and it was only implemented on the Wednesday market. So there's plans to do this further in the future for Saturday. But in a 10-week period, we picked up over 2,000 pounds of produce that was then dispersed at they have free farmers markets in a part of in Springfield, and they shared that food at no cost to people. So to me, it was just those two things that were really exciting in terms of opportunities for this year and then for the future.
This is Amanda from Monticello. I think we did a good job, I kind of mentioned this, of increasing our outreach and community participation. And we kind of kicked off the beginning of the season with a couple things where we formed partnerships with different community groups. We worked with area artists and the Monticello Arts Council to develop a new logo for the market. And then we also hosted, it was like the second week of our market in late June, what we called a pollination celebration to celebrate the Illinois Pollinator Week and the importance of pollinators to our food system. And so through that pollination celebration, we worked with the Farm Bureau, the Arts Council, the Forest Preserve, the library, some local businesses, the Soil and Water Conservation District, pretty much almost every organization in town offered different things, plant sales, seed giveaways that week. And so that kind of just provided us at the very beginning of our season of these partnerships. And, you know, different people were throughout the community involved with those different groups. And it just kind of brought us all together and set this tone for the market that we were going to be working together. And then a lot of those organizations set up booths at the market throughout the year. And so, yeah, increasing our interaction with community groups. And then because of that, community members, I think, was probably one of our biggest successes.
This is Nicole, and like I said before, I haven't really been through one whole season by myself. I was kind of training throughout half the season, but I know from hearing our numbers with the LINK program, I think that's been one of our big successes, is getting the members of the community out there with being able to use our LINK card on good, healthy food that we know where it's coming from, and also educating them on, educating them about the purpose of the food and, how it, where it comes from and how it's grown, has really been a success story for us that we're planning to continue next year, as well as ramping up our advertising.
That's great. How will you advertise?
I am right now. I am going to be attending a few different conferences and local food initiatives throughout the state, or in our local area, to either to try to get more local vendors interested, but also we've also looked at focusing more on where the heavy populated LINK users are in our area, which, like I said, we're at the state fair, so we are in Springfield, Illinois as well. But right now we're kind of focusing on the vendors, but then after we get those signed on, really trying to target maybe some of the schools, as well as some of the living areas that have the higher number of LINK card users, as well as maybe working with some grocery stores and things like that. We haven't quite figured that out yet, but we're just kind of brainstorming at the moment.
Great, thank you. Now we've talked about, some big successes. Looking back at the first season, what would you say was your biggest challenge?
I would say, this is Deborah, the vendor compliance with policies. And the Illinois Stewardship Alliance became a partner in this market in 2016. Prior to that, so as I mentioned, it's been going on for 19 years. There were policies, but when the Illinois Stewardship Alliance took responsibility, they spent a considerable amount of time working with people in the Illinois Farmers Market Associations and others to develop a clear, very well-written policy document. So when I came in February, one of my first responsibilities was to review the current document and how could we tweak things, improve things, and just make sure that when you start your market, you have clearly stated policies. And so because I had gone through the certification program through ILFMA for being a certified farm market manager, I had a really good understanding of the import of doing that. So, and then as I mentioned too before, when I was working with the University of Illinois and developing a manual. And then I thought for this presentation today, I went to the Farmers Market Coalition, and if you're not familiar with that organization, I would suggest that you check them out because they have amazing resources there, and where the ILFMA is a member. So one of the things that they said in writing policies is that you needed to make sure that they complement the mission and goals of your market. So you need to have clearly stated goals and mission, that they're clear and concise, they're fair and equitable, they are specific and defined, have spelled out mechanisms to enforce policies and resolve conflicts. They define who's responsible for the enforcement and are reviewed and revised on a regular basis to reflect changes and new situations. So just from my perspective, I did my last market on Saturday. We developed policies that we felt met these guidelines. And my frustration as a new market manager was first, the fact that so few vendors read these guidelines, number one. So when people signed on, we use Manage My Market, and I'd like to learn from the other people on the call, like what tools they use for vendor sign up. And so all of those policies are right in the application, and before you can even complete your application, you have to sign a statement saying that you have read these and that you will comply with them, right? So, and then we also send an attachment. And then when things would occur, and Amanda and Nicole have both alluded to this, you would say, well, hey, here's the policies in the manual, and this is how we're doing it. There were several people that were frankly very non-compliant, and in some cases even hostile in terms of doing this. And so for me, had to laugh when Amanda said, I was really taken aback by this behavior. I wasn't expecting it at all. I frankly sometimes had a really hard time dealing with it. So I'm learning and growing in this position of how to deal with this in a healthy and effective manner.
This is Amanda. I would echo that as well. Before I came on, there were policies and procedures in place that dealt with things like products should be grown locally by the vendor. And it was clear to me that that was not the case with what was going on. So kind of in our first year, we focused more on growth and expanding, bringing in new vendors. And because there weren't, as Deborah mentioned, we didn't have enforcement guidelines in our policies. It was hard to enforce some of those things. So I focused on bringing in new vendors, which required some changes in our space, changes in how we set up, managing, bringing in new products was difficult, not getting everybody selling watermelons. And so along with that, I heard a lot of this isn't the way we do things. We've been doing this for 19 years. And so that was a huge challenge. And I plan to work with the board of directors of Monticello Main Street on our policies this winter. And I'm glad you mentioned the kind of plan for enforcing those policies, having that set out as well, having that specified. But yeah, that was a big challenge I did not expect.
And I would be glad to share our policies, with anybody who wants them too.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that if a farmer's market becomes a member of the Illinois Farmers Market Association, because we are members of the Farmers Market Coalition, then you get our membership for free. So you do not have to join the Farmers Market Coalition if you're a member of ILFMA. And so we think that's a great benefit that we're offering. So yes, take Deborah up on her offer to share her policies, but then definitely look at the Farmers Market Coalition as a resource and a source of additional information on this matter and so many others. Go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, I was just going to also echo, some of those challenges that they talked about. One thing that we're really trying to do now is to re-examine our contract and get that changed for the following year. That is the hardest part, is getting these vendors to comply and to not have them change throughout the year. Where we have vendors bringing new products that they did not list down. We make them list all their products that they'll be selling throughout the year, and we'll have vendors bring in products that weren't on those lists. I don't, they don't understand that by complying with these agreements, then it's keeping everybody else on task also. And that's been our hardest part. We're really going to try to do site visits this year to try to stay on top of that. But just getting that time and resources is going to be a challenge. But yeah, I think all of those challenges are definitely similar to most of the farmers markets.
And this is Deborah. I would be glad too to share. A lot of time has been spent doing farm inspections. And last year I was hired with my consulting business to develop this program, and I also worked with the farmers market in Lincoln, Illinois, the Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital Farmers Market, with a farm inspection plan, and did a lot of those. We're talking about how, for the future, how this will work. But this farm inspection thing is very complicated. I got a lot of information from the Farmers Market Association members and also from the Farmers Market Coalition, and talking to other extension professionals across the state that work in this area. But I think I would really be interested in working with maybe people on this call and others to really look at how we could develop a statewide approach to doing these farm inspections. And I know ILFMA has talked about it, but again, even with the amount of time and energy we spent with farm inspections, and as Nicole said, you would have people, I would take the Manage My Market list of the products, and I did inspections of every vendor to see what was on the table and what wasn't. And then I would follow up with them and say, it wasn't on your list, you need to get it on or get it off the table. And it was just like I would be ignored. And so then there's, I keep track of everything, and then there becomes a thing where if you're non-compliant, then you can be removed from the market. But anybody who's on this call knows how hard all of that is, right? So if you have these policies and people aren't doing things, how do you really make that happen? Because you want a very positive thing happening in your market. So how do you keep that? But at the same time, when people refuse to be in compliance with the rules, how do you handle that?
This is Laurie. We have Janelle Silva, who is part of the Skokie Market. They use Manage My Market, which I think is an online program. I was just wondering if that was effective for them. Janelle? Janelle, can you hear me? You're unmuted? Apparently not. Okay, I'll get her later.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we use Manage My Market too. I mean, do you guys, do you use it, Amanda or Nicole? Do you use Manage My Market?
I do.
I can't remember exactly what we use yet, but we use something similar to it.
And Amanda, you do?
No, we do not.
Okay.
But it's something I'll look into.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that brings us to maybe the next question, which is looking forward to next season. What three things would you do differently? Are there any new programs, activities, things you'd like to implement?
Hi, this is Janelle. I don't know if you can hear me now.
No, we.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we're asking, what would you do differently? Any improvements in the area of market rules, vendor recruitment, SNAP program, marketing, whatever? What things would you do differently next year?
This is Amanda. I've already mentioned that I would like to work on our guidelines and enforcement rules. Something I really want to do is obtain market metrics. So being able to monitor number of customers, and then also asking vendors to share maybe a range of their income for the market so that I can report back those numbers to the Monticello Main Street organization and the board and show how the market is contributing to economic development in our town, and engaging community members. So to do that, I'd also like to engage more volunteers, have folks helping with counting customers and things like that.
This is Nicole. As I mentioned before, we're reviewing our contract to see what we can do so there's really no loopholes with our vendors. And hopefully that we look forward to that being revised by the time we start taking vendor agreements. Also, just looking for more activities, looking for better ways to attract different groups of people that may not ever think they'd ever go to a farmer's market, or grandma and grandpa on the street that just hasn't been there for years. We really want to try to get a whole well-rounded group of people out there, and really kind of spread things by word of mouth. But we'd also like to start some better targeted advertising initiatives. So we're really going to be thinking outside the box on what we can do to get more interest in the Link program, as well as just our vendors or who's going to be out there. With the Link program, we are going to be increasing our match. So because it's been such an overwhelming response with our Link users, we're going to be increasing it just up to the max that we can do the match on, which I think is $25.
Okay, great.
Jane, I do have a question here.
Okay.
I have a market that has apparently a problem with a specific vendor, and I think this is more toward farm inspection. So they have a farm acres, so the farm itself have farm acres in various locations, so a visit can be really difficult for that farm. Any suggestions on this from any of the panel members?
You have to go visit them. I mean, that's the difficult part of it, where when someone signs up, at least the application that we've developed, as I mentioned, with a lot of support from others that had gone before us using those materials and editing them. So there were some farms that I would go to 3 or 4 different farms, and I would have to drive one. I had to go an hour and a half. So it's complicated, it's expensive. And the other thing that's very difficult is that if you look at someone that's growing food, farmers markets are just one marketing channel, right? So people can have a CSA, they can sell at other grocery stores or such, they can sell to restaurants, they can have a lot of marketing channels. The Old Capitol Farmers Market requires that everything on that table be grown by the person that is the vendor, right, selling it. They can have other staff selling it, but that has to come from your farm. So if I go to a farm and I look at a field and I say, you're going to sell cabbage, and you have, so many 300-foot rows of cabbage, I can do the math and figure out, how many heads of cabbage could you possibly have. But if you're going to, let's say, Peoria, and you're going to Bloomington, and then you're selling here and there, a lot of markets don't require people to be in compliance with this. And there's a lot of reselling and wholesale purchasing going on. So it just got really complicated. Then when you go look at trying to do meat inspections, for figuring that out, and then looking at people's processing records, and then all of that. So if your market is going to make a commitment to really saying that you are a farmers only market, it becomes this overwhelming thing, at least in my perspective, of really making sure that people are in compliance with that.
It does sound overwhelming, but I do think, again, maybe even scheduling an additional call to talk about farm inspections. But then the one suggestion I might have is finding out about the producer that the market manager was calling in about is finding out where else they sell and seeing if you can split the responsibility of doing the farm inspection. And I do think that would be a benefit of potentially ILFMA, maybe creating some sort of a system where we have the ability to share that kind of information. So, but I do think many of these producers sell at a variety of markets, and you might be able to share that responsibility for going to the farm, especially in different parts of the state or wherever they are, to try and do a thorough inspection.
I do have another question from Karen Winters. She has markets in the Chicagoland area and surrounding suburbs. They have no problem with getting vendors into the suburban markets, but they do have a hard time getting them to support the market in food-scarce communities, which is part of their environmental justice lens. So what language can they include in their vendor agreement to address this?
So I have a question, Karen. Are you? So you have I don't know about how your market operates. So you're one entity and you have several markets. So would you have the ability then to say if someone signs on to vend with you that it would be a requirement that you vend at these other locations, or are these locations all separate sign-ups for these individuals?
Right. I know that there are a couple urban markets that use that, where if you're going to sign up and vend at a more lucrative market, then you also have to sign up to vend in a food scarce community where the take home at the end of the day may be a little bit less. The other is to provide financial incentives to the vendors to sell in those communities where potentially there is less income at the end of the day, so that the fees are not the same given the type of market that you're going to be serving.
Yes, apparently they go from place to place.
Yeah. Do you have any additional questions, Laurie?
Not at this time.
All right, I have maybe one final question and then just an opportunity for our panelists to just say anything we didn't quite touch on today. But what advice would you give a first-time farmers market manager?
I think trying to keep calm and carry on. It's a big job, and you have multiple. You're dealing with multiple constituencies, right? So the primary people, your vendors, and then your customers, and all these people, and people have different goals and objectives for what they're doing. And it's just very complicated. And so I think a lot of us have already talked about, in terms of when you asked us the question about our skills and stuff, so for our communication and things like that. But I think that whole thing of just trying to juggle all of these things at the same time and not lose it.
This is Amanda. My advice would be to connect with other market managers, which you're all doing by being on the call today. I had a few friends from Southern Illinois that had both been market managers, and it was just priceless to be able to call or send them a message with questions. Similarly, by joining the Illinois Farmers Market Association, I made contacts with Jane and Natalie Kenny Marquez that were helpful. They were both willing to talk with me on the phone and help answer questions. And then similarly, I would say having some sort of advisory board, which the Main Street Board had not been active with the farmers market. that's something that I'm asking them to do, is have a subset of their board be part of an advisory board that might include a few of the vendors and farmers to help make these decisions that need to be made about our policies and guidelines and enforcement, and to help share the workload in that.
I would also suggest to reach out to your local extension office in your area. There are several, we have about 8 or 9 individuals throughout the state that are Small Farms Local Foods team members, and they would be more than willing to help you in developing and creating your farmers market as well.
And Laurie, could you please share a little bit about what your leadership you're providing to the updating of the manual?
So the manual was originally written in 2015. We had several editors in that manual itself. We felt that it was time to update. There's been a lot of changes with the new Food Safety Modernization Act produce rule that came in. Sampling at farmers markets, some new rules and guidelines for that. So it was time to update the manual itself. We cover a lot of information in the manual. We discuss areas of how to set up the market itself, governing issues, vendor recruitment and retention, fundraising strategies, food assistance programs, and programs such as the double value coupons, and working with the link cards and setting that up. Working with your vendors on how to set up displays. We talk a little bit about community-supported agriculture, as well as the unwanted information on taxes and how to pay your taxes and where to go. So there's a lot of information in this training manual itself. It is almost finished as far as a final draft for the 2018-2019 season. It will be coming out hopefully by the end of December. And so once it's been approved by the Board of Directors and the Farmers Market Association, then it will be available online, hopefully at some point after that, through the Illinois Farmers Market Association, hopefully. So we are always looking for inputs once it's out. If we've forgotten anything in the manual or something needs to be added, feel free to contact Jane Maxwell, and she will let me know.
Well, in addition, that manual we do feel is an incredible resource that the Illinois Farmers Market Association provides, and so it is available on our website to members in the members only section. So we really look forward to being able to publish that and provide the most up-to-date information we possibly can. Laurie, I'm looking at our time. I think maybe it's just time to thank our panelists. And
yep. I have no more questions from the attendees itself. But I would like to thank our presenters for the great information that they shared, as well as their expertise. And I'd also like to thank everyone for joining us on this webinar. We hope that the information presented will be beneficial in developing and promoting your local farmers market. If you are continuing this year, or if you have not ended, or for the 2019 farmers market season. Please look for an email from me with a link to the archived webinar, and remember, it will be posted on the Illinois Farmers Market Association website, as well as the Illinois Local Foods YouTube site. Jane, Deborah, Nicole, or Amanda, do you have anything else you want to mention?
Thank you for organizing.
No, just thank you.
I was also going to say, being new to the position, I've had several people like Deborah reach out and, say, hey, I'm here if you, want to talk or chit chat about anything we're doing. Or I would just say, be open and ask questions and learn from others and see what's working places and what's not. Think outside the box, visit other farmers markets. And, be receptive to input and, try new things. Don't be afraid of, a challenge.
Okay.
Good word.
So with that, I'd like to wish you a fabulous rest of the day and enjoy the sunshine. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.